Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. And tonight we have a very special guest for this Game Over crossover. We have Lauren from a Game Over Toronto as the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Edmonton Oilers 4-3 hockey night in Canada. Instant classic.
Boom, boom, boom,
Lauren,
boom, boom, boom.
what do you got? How was that
Oh,
game?
man. I'm glad I put on an extra layer of deodorant in the second intermission, because that second period, you could feel the Oilers were fighting with everything they had. Joseph Woll, absolutely their best player for the Leafs in the second period. And despite the fact that Leon Draisaitl scores a goal with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go, the Leafs still win 4-3. Throwing everything and anything at the net, and Joseph Woll earning the belt, I would guess, as we would say over on Game Over Toronto. Thank you for having me on. Obviously, we love doing the crossover events here on Game Over. And Ash, I haven't had a chance to stream with you yet, so I'm really excited to be here. Actually, in all of the seasons that I've done Game Over, I don't think I've ever done one of the head-to-heads against Edmonton. I think I've done every other city.
Interesting.
I think I've done everything else.
Okay, well, it's wonderful to have you, and if you didn't watch this game, you are missing out. This was an instant classic. This is one of the most exciting games of the year immediately.
Yeah.
It was the electricity in the building, how hard each teams were playing. It was classic hockey night in Canada. It was a perfect game. Unless you're an Oilers fan, because I would like to congratulate Joseph Woll on beating the Edmonton Oilers. Congratulations, Joseph Woll. What an effort. You really did beat the Edmonton Oilers. It's just stellar. I'm actually, even putting away the end of the third period, oh my God. Oh my God. He had so many just important saves, big plays all throughout the game to keep the Leafs in the lead all the way through. I mean, Joseph Woll has really stepped up his game this year. Hasn't he?
Yeah, and there's only two goalies that have played more than him in January. So at the beginning of the season, obviously, Joseph Woll actually got hurt at the end of the playoffs last year. Much to our dismay, we were very happy when he came back. The Leafs signed Anthony Stolarz in the offseason. At the beginning of the season, both of them were unbelievable. Anthony Stolarz got hurt at the beginning of December. We are hearing close to coming back, but Joseph Woll has been unbelievable through this entire stretch. And thank goodness. I mean, it's been a long time since the Leafs had a prospect that was a goaltender that could hold anything and could actually be counted on upon net. And tonight, you talk about timely saves. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
There was just moment after moment after moment of being in the right position, making really good reads. And that's something that we've really grown to love about Joseph Woll. He is so steady in net. He never looks nervous. Even tonight, as the Oilers are getting closer and closer to tying it, and for a second there they did, he's not out of position. He's not throwing himself all over the place like some of the other goalies that we've had. And it's the first time really that Leafs fans have felt like they were not worried about goaltending. And as a Leafs fan that has had sort of patchy goaltending for the last 14 years, essentially, it really is like a brand new pair of sweatpants and a brand new hoodie, and you just put it on and it's just warm and cozy. He's arguably the most important player on our team right now.
Yeah, I mean, Luke in chat, if Woll can start scoring goals, we could probably trade half the rest of the team. I mean, with wins like that, you might as well. That guy, incredible. Just I know there was a lot of anxiety when he got hurt in the offseason. Does not look like it's an issue. Just wow. And I mean, on the Edmonton side of things, Stuart Skinner, it's a rough start. It really is a rough start for him. To be fair, two of them are on the power play. They are power play goals. Nyes, I think it was the third goal. It was Bobby McMann. He puts the moves on in front of the net. Really nice goal. The first power play goal, Stetcher just loses a man. I don't think that's on Skinner, but that first goal and that fourth goal, man, those are goals that just full saves. And that's kind of what decides the game because, in my opinion, and I think Lauren would agree, the Oilers played a lot better tonight overall, us goaltending aside. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, there were obviously for like 8 minutes in the first period, the Leafs were just unbelievable. They really, I mean, to start the game, before anybody has even scored, there's go Leafs go and let's go Oilers chants going back and forth.
Oh,
Which,
yeah. Oh, my God.
what an atmosphere and environment to be playing in, right? Like, I think, how do you not just become like electrified in that moment? And it was pretty evident. Like, it was really nice for the Leafs to play so well in the first period, but they were held to how many? 6 shots in the second period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To 6 to 18 for the Oilers, right? So they really were not able to carry over all the momentum that they had in the first period. But it was I do want to say Stuart Skinner has his patches of good and bad, and I, as somebody that occasionally watch West Coast hockey, I do know that. But he makes the initial save on all of them.
Yeah, that's true. He does.
It's the rebound that we were able to capitalize on. And in fairness,
that's been a problem in Edmonton. If you remember Jack Campbell, what was Jack Campbell's number one issue? I mean, just like
beside the 5
obviously, but like it was just rebound control. Like rebound control has been an Edmonton goalie issue, and I mean we've had the same goalie coach for how long now? Like Dustin Schwartz. Like this is your job. Get on it, please.
Well, and it's, I mean, in fairness, like the last couple of weeks, even though the Leafs have had like a hot stretch, that was a long time ago now. Like I think the Leafs have lost something like 8 of their last 11. Like it has not been super great. But they have had some problems in that 2 of their main people that are good in net front, who's John Tavares and Matthew Nyes, came back tonight. And even though Nyes does actually score that one really nice goal to make it 2-0, we haven't had those like rebound opportunities and buried them. We've had a lot of like rebound opportunities that have happened, but the Leafs just haven't been playing themselves into a position where there's somebody in there in that moment with the right timing and with the skill set to bury it. But tonight they buried on all of them, and so like, you know, it's very nice to see, but this is not how the Leafs have been playing, that they've been able to capitalize on that. So to go into the first intermission up 3-0, I was happy as a clam sitting on the couch, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, you can point to the. I mean, as an Oilers fan, I'm gonna point to the fact that despite this is an Oilers home game, we're still starting 3 hours earlier. It's 5 p.m. start time. Oilers games usually start 8:30. Like, yeah, that's late, but that's 3 hours ahead of schedule. So Leafs are gonna start on time. Oilers are not. It's copium. It's like whatever. But I mean, the Leafs did have a good start to the game. There was a few Oilers shifts at the beginning I thought were pretty good, but after that the Oilers kind of sat back for those 8 minutes, down 3-0, and you could tell the energy in the building. I mean, it was so loud in there. The go Oilers go, let's go Oilers, go Leafs go chants just going back and forth. It's crazy in there. It sounded like a playoff game, but man, the mental boom of hearing "Go Leafs Go" in your home barn down 3-0, and then you hear all the Leafs fans chanting "Skinner." Oh, dude, I would just be out of it. Props to the Oilers for fighting through that, but Jesus Christ, how annoying! How annoying that would be. It'd be awful.
Yeah, I mean, this is not. I mean, listen, I don't cheer for this team because I live somewhere else and I just like being the bad guy, which I don't get why, because we haven't won in ages. But there is something really epic about, like, no matter, and it's not just Edmonton, it's anywhere that the Leafs go and play, there is a noticeable amount. I don't know the last time that the Leafs fans didn't get a "Go Leafs Go" chant going. I mean, like tonight, the "Go Leafs Go" chants were louder in Rogers Arena than they are usually at Scotiabank.
I was gonna say, like, are
ridiculous.
Leafs home games this loud? I never remember them being this loud. Why are they all showing up in the lower bowl in Edmonton? Why are there so many of y'all here? Go away, go home, go chant at your arena.
I don't know. I know that, like, I know that other cities make ticket like inflation when the Leafs come to play.
Yeah.
Like I actually only live like an hour and a half from the US border down in Niagara Falls, so I could go see them in Buffalo. But the fact of the matter is they jack up the price because so many Leafs fans go. It's the same thing with Detroit. We're 3 hours from Detroit. Same thing. Columbus, when they go play Columbus, it's a 4.5 hour drive, right? So there's an Ottawa, Montreal, although Montreal is still usually Hab Haven. Like in Ottawa games, I don't know if it's still the same this year now that Ottawa's actually doing well, but in years previous, like it's a sea of blue.
Yeah.
So it's not overly surprising, but the chants were intense. Honestly, the biggest cheer that I heard from Leafs fans the whole night was when that goal at the very end was called off.
Yeah.
Like the arena was like bananas. Oh my god,
dude!
man,
Don't even
you
get
gotta
me
talk to your people, man. You gotta talk to your
callback
people.
goal. Oh, I hope you see the exasperation because, man, it's perfect. It's actually perfect. Like right
Poetic.
beforehand. Oh my god! I have to look at my notes because right beforehand, it's actually It's literally perfect Oilers. You get a big Skinner stop on a 2-on-1. It's huge. It's so important that he gets the stop. Bouchard gets a very quick pass up to Jeff Skinner, who had a phenomenal game tonight. Jeff Skinner played amazing tonight, I think. And they catch the Leafs on a change. And then there's, I think, a missed icing. One linesman had the hand up, one linesman didn't. It was very confusing. But it's Klingberg to McDavid to dry on the entry, and then they cycle it a bit. And it's McDavid to drive for a classic. Oh my god, it's literally everything you want as an Oilers fan. It's literally everything you want. Skinner save, Bouchard rush, Klingberg getting good passes, McDavid to Draisaitl classic, and Klingberg.
Draisaitl in his spot with no one in front of him too.
It's
no
perfect.
one,
It's
not
perfect.
a single Leaf within 10 feet.
And Klingberg is off by that much, and it doesn't affect the play, and it's off by that much. You can't do that to me after a stellar third period where, yes, the Leafs get this like weird, like reboundy type goal to start the period, whatever. It's all Oilers. Don't care about that. It's pain. And then the ending sequence after that, dude, Joseph Woll robbing Corey Perry, and like a Nuge like hits his body and goes just wide. Bouchard hits the post. I'm gonna lose it. What a game! Actually, what a game!
Yeah, and it's even more. It's honestly so perfect for Leafs fans too, because it would be suitable that we play that well in the first period and then we let them tie it with 2 minutes, 20 seconds to go. It is so suitable that Corey Perry gets a goal against the Leafs because he is a noted Leafs murderer.
Yep.
Zach Hyman scores against the Leafs because,
exactly.
of course,
You have to.
There's a Bouchard
Connor
bomb
Brown has some good ones too. Like,
because there's no good defenseman on the Leafs in terms of goal scoring. So, of course, Edmonton gets a goal from like their top bomb from the top of the face-off circle. Oh my god!
How I love you. What a near perfect game by Evan Bouchard. I thought.
Yeah, he had a good game.
Just stellar.
I thought
he was the most consistent Oiler, especially with Ekholm. You know how all these Bouchard haters from whether it's Vancouver or Toronto or even in the old Edmonton media, they're like, oh, Bouchard is getting sheltered by Ekholm, product of McDavid, product of Draisaitl. He's playing with Brett Kulak out there. He's playing with Darnell Nurse out there. He's playing with John Klingberg out there. And he's by far the calmest Oiler with the puck, even with McDavid. Giving the puck away and bobbles, entering the zone. I didn't think McDavid had the best game, even though he clearly wanted it. I mean, McDavid plays 11 out of 10 against Toronto. He gives it his all. Bouchard just he's just so calm with the puck. Such great passes, it's the post. He notoriously misses the net a lot, but what a perfect shot for his goal, and he almost gets another. It's so sad. It's actually so sad. Man.
Yay. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know, but in all seriousness though, what does Evan Bouchard make? Genuinely, I'm being curious. I don't know what he makes.
Evan Bouchard right now makes, I think, 3.7. Evan Bouchard contract.
Wow. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. So you look up the thing.
Evan Bouchard is $3.9 million. And this is his last year of the contract. So annoying. Last year of the contract.
Okay, so what's he gonna sign for? Do you think? What's the rumors of what Bouchard is gonna resign for? Because I'm assuming they want to bring him back. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the worst mistake in Oilers history. Next to literally some of the all-time Oiler mistakes.
Next to signing Jack Campbell 5x5.
Yes, I literally think that signing Jack Campbell 5x5 would be better than letting Bouchard walk for anything. For literally anything. Evan Bouchard is worth $11 million a year. He is. And that's the case. He is a top 10, top 5 defenseman right shot in the league. You will never ever find a defenseman like that. You'll never find anyone who has the chemistry with McDavid and Draisaitl that Evan Bouchard has. Even with his giveaways, you know who else has a lot of giveaways? Matthias Ekholm has about the same amount of giveaways as Evan Bouchard, but Matthias Ekholm doesn't get criticized like that. Darnell Nurse doesn't get criticized like that. Dougie Hamilton doesn't get criticized like Evan Bouchard does. All these people don't get criticized like Evan Bouchard does, despite the fact that Evan Bouchard has top 5 numbers in the league. It's wild. It really is.
Well, and I don't get the, and maybe this is just because I live in Leafland, right? Like, to be honest, it's rare that really intense or player specific news filters into Toronto media, just because our market is so oversaturated with crap about our own team that sometimes it really gets tiresome. That's not meant that I hate that everything is so centered around Toronto, because I like hearing all these other storylines, because objectively Evan Bouchard is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I know that every now and then he will have these defensive lapses, or maybe he doesn't cover his man as well as he could. Mm-hmm. Right? That does happen. But if you have a defenseman that can actually bomb with any form of decent accuracy, like tonight, what a shot from Bouchard tonight. Holy cannoli. And so I would take that, because right now we're paying Morgan Rielly, and I love Morgan Rielly so much as a person. He's been on the team for a very long time. $7 million to make these defensive lapses and then have 2 goals on the whole year.
Right. And this isn't a year where Bouchard is having a down year, right? Right. Bouchard literally just came off of a record setting. He beat Paul Coffey's playoff record for assists by a defenseman, and you're gonna let him walk? Right. I really can't take Bouchard hate seriously. Especially, I encourage people who are critical of his game to keep being critical of his game, but I want you to be critical of all the Oilers defensemen, because a lot of the stuff that Bouchard does, especially when it comes to missing men, it's an Oilers defensive system-wide problem. Look at it was on the penalty kill, but still, look at Troy Stecher just leaving. Who was it that got the second power play goal, or the first power play goal for the Leafs?
Matthew Nyes.
Yeah, Matthew Nyes. Just left him alone. What about the other night in Detroit? Kulak and Klingberg both just left a man just wide open. Corey Perry, same thing. This is a Edmonton-wide problem. It's not a Bouchard problem. You would be remiss to ever find a defenseman like him. There are 31 other teams in the league just salivating at the chance for the Oilers to screw this up. Anyway, nightly Bouchard rant out of the way. I thought he played just wonderful tonight.
Man, for what he makes, you can't ask him to not make mistakes.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's unbelievable. We have an equally infuriating thing, and so you're talking about how Joseph Woll is so good. Joseph Woll this year makes less than league minimum.
Wait, what?
He's still on his entry. Joseph Woll right now is still making his entry-level contract, which is technically under league min.
Goalies are voodoo.
And
goalies are voodoo.
I know.
They're just straight voodoo.
I know.
You can just you'll never know. You'll literally never ever know what goalies are. It's wild. It really is.
Yeah. it's silly. It's very silly.
All
Ugh.
All right. So I want to get into our second period here. And I want to get into some specifics about the game. But before we do, I'm going to give a nice read to our sister show at Game Over Network, Hyperdrive Hockey. Shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing in a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Hout, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Larme every Monday and Thursday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Alrighty, into our second period, into some specifics. On the Leafs end of things, that Nyes Matthews Marner line, stellar, just absolutely stellar. Every time they were on the ice, I was like, wow, like this is great. Outside of that, though, I really was not impressed with your forward group. I really wasn't.
Me neither.
Did you agree? Like,
Yeah.
tell me a bit about that.
Well, so the Nyes Matthews Marner line is unbelievable. When they're playing well together, they are very difficult to play against. Mitch Marner is a very gifted forward, as we all know, in terms of both ways. 200 feet, he is very responsible. Actually, the entire top line plays on the PK. Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner all play on the PK, which is great. It means that no matter the situation, they're usually very good. When Matthew Nyes is not playing with that line, or due to injury or whatever else, that line struggles mightily. And part of that is because of Matthew Nyes and his existence and the way he's structured. He is like 6'3" and 225. And it is not a secret that many of our defensemen on our own team have made multiple comments in this season so far about how absurdly strong Matthew Nyes is and how he has no idea of how actually strong he is. So they find it, like players on our own team in practice, find it hard to play against him because he is so massive and he is so strong in front of the net. There was more than one play tonight where Matthew Nyes moves somebody out of the way. It looks like he tries to do it gently, and the person gets moved 4 feet. Like he's a very good net front presence.
Yeah,
and we haven't had that in a long time. And Zach Hyman is someone that on the Leafs had a similar thing. He's just not as bulky as Matthew Nyes is. Now, having said that, Zach Hyman, I would give anything to have him back on our team. But it is nice to see that the Leafs have somebody that's coming up in the system that can have that kind of not power forward, but power forward like role that is net front, that is difficult to move, that is very gifted, that can play with those two players because they're tough to play with because they really like to play together and they do all these silly things that requires no talking and sometimes goes really well and sometimes is awful, and it's difficult to find somebody that can match that kind of play. So when he's out, that line is it's almost invisible. The rest of the lineup tonight was okay. I think that the third line actually had a couple of really good moments. I don't know why at any point there was a line, I think it was Bobby McMahon, William Nylander, Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, and Nick Robertson on the ice against McDavid, which was terrifying. Like, that is our third line. It is arguably our worst line, actually. And they are the worst defensively on the entire team. And they got caught out there with Draisaitl and McDavid. And I think it led to like almost a minute in zone time for Edmonton.
Yeah, there were quite a few times where the Oilers were able to get a big line mismatch. I also thought the Kampf Holmberg line was also out there for quite a bit of mismatches. I thought Chris Knobloch did a really good job of being able to kind of exploit that weakness. And you kind of saw this at the start of the game, how, I mean, the Oilers kind of do this. They don't always start McDavid. They actually rarely start McDavid out. Sometimes they'll go Adam Henrique. I know tonight it was Hopkins playing with Hyman, but it's not all the time that they start McDavid, especially when they do McDavid Draisaitl out against the top line of an opposing team. So I thought Chris Knoblauch was able to do that very well, and there were just McDavid, Draisaitl, and Perry had so many really good shifts, but they could have been so much better. There was a lot of missed opportunities for the Oilers top line tonight. There were a lot of times where McDavid was skating the puck in through 4 defensemen, trying to make a McDavid classic work. Didn't work, gave it away. Just a lot of like sloppiness, a lot of passing, when just one too many passes. Now, I think that people who are there's always this segment of hockey fans who are just like, just shoot the puck, especially on the power play. And I'm not a fan. I don't know what you think about those types of people. I'm not a fan of those people, especially when it's like a shot from the outside. Almost always leads to a turnover. But tonight the Oilers were definitely in one too many passes, which is crazy on a night where they get like 40 shots or something like absurd like that, right? I don't know. What do you think about that type of fan?
Well, I think it depends on the context. Mm-hmm. I think there are definitely times where the Leafs play to the outside, and they're like, tonight the Leafs power play was 2 for 2, and I can't tell you the last time that happened.
Yeah, they mentioned that on the broadcast too, right?
Yeah, it's been very Katy Perry hot and cold. There were flashes in the pan of the Leafs being very hot, but the Leafs power play for the last several seasons is either very good or it's very bad. And part of that has been because they have had a tendency for long stretches in this season to really like sticking it to the outside. More than one person, including the coach, has said they're being too cute with it. We're being too picky. I think to some degree, sometimes it does require, in order to score on the power play, you have to put something on net and create that kind of chaos. I think if you stick, especially for the Leafs, I think if the Leafs have a tendency to be very predictable in terms of their passing, especially towards the end of last season, the beginning of this. I could have closed my eyes and told you what kind of zone entry they're going to use, and then who's going to have it back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah,
when Unit 1 is out there, you can watch Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews pass back and forth to each other 4 separate times.
Yeah.
Do back and forth. And that's fine. You like it. But they're trying to cause something to happen without causing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think that it's always necessary to just take a shot for the sake of taking a shot, because it can create a turnover. And if you're playing against a fast team like the Oilers, they have the capability to take that opportunity and run with it and get the puck going the other way. So it depends on the context. Sometimes it is necessary to say you need to shoot more, but sometimes you don't want to just shoot for the sake of shooting either. So I think it depends on the context. Tonight, I liked the shots that the Leafs were able to take. And then even though it's great to take the shot, but it's another thing to have people in a position to bury the rebounds. And luckily tonight, the Leafs seemed to just be in the right place at the right time. The William Nylander goal was a result of that. He managed to find a little bit of ice right in the middle of the slot. The Matthew Nyes is a buried rebound. The McMahon goal, again, buried rebound. And then the 4th goal with Mitch Marner is just a really nice play that he gets his own rebound with his foot. He couldn't see it. Like, Skinner made the initial save mostly, and then it comes back out a little bit and gets banked in anyway. But again, just being the right place at the right time. If you're taking those shots and you have somebody in a position that has the skill set to bury those rebounds, and then is just in the right place at the right time at the right split second for it to happen, just saying just shoot can help. But if you got no one there, then it's a terrible idea.
No, I mean, like, you could say the exact same thing with the Oilers power play. Despite it being 7th in the league, and that being kind of inflated from a hot streak recently, because they had a really cold start, a really cold start on special teams. They were like league worst in both penalty kill and power play to start the year. I mean, it's going to be Bouchard's going to drop pass it to McDavid, who's going to skate in as fast as he can. McDavid drops out of Bouchard, are going to go like a triangle. They're trying to set up the cross ice to Bouchard. Every power play looks like that. But I think that not just like especially on a power play, because, you know, if it's a 50-50 puck battle and the defense comes up with it, that's really bad. I think something that team, especially the Oilers, were doing very successfully about a week ago with Nugent Hopkins when McDavid was out with a suspension, is mix up the players who are actually getting the puck. Nugent Hopkins getting active in the play, getting the puck, passing it around. That was a big part of the fact that he got a few power play goals while McDavid was gone. And I think adding him into that mix is really important for the Oilers power play. I mean, look at his 100-point season. That's when the Oilers set the power play record. That doesn't just come off of like nothing. That's because he's being active in the play. And I think the Oilers need, especially like McDavid and Draisaitl, need to move that around a bit, which I think they were doing a bit. There were a lot of really good chances, but I mean, Oilers could have easily had 50 shots this game. They really could have lit up Wall. I mean, he could have had an even better performance if they just shot the puck a few times, because there were just a few times, just one too many passes, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's hard, right? Because similarly, when Matthews was out in December, because Matthews has been out a couple times with injury this year.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner has been a goal-scoring machine, which he is a pass-first player, but he tends to be left open a fair amount because other teams expect him to pass. They're not really expecting him to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a similar thing with William Nylander a few years ago. Now, William Nylander, this is now his fifth season with 30 goals, so it's not that surprising. But to begin his career, William Nylander was primarily a pass-first player. But we knew he had the shot, so it would be frustrating when he wouldn't take a shot, because you're good enough to actually put it in. And now, especially since he started this new contract in all of last year and in the playoffs, he has these moments where he does find this quiet space. And because he used to be more of a pass-first player, teams tended to leave him alone now. Nowadays, that doesn't happen as much, right? Like, there's way more attention on him. But Mitch Marner is still left alone a little bit more and given more space than someone like Austin Matthews. Or in your case, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins does get more space because they're not used to looking at him in terms of a goal-scoring threat. Right? Now, I will say the one thing that Edmonton has that Toronto does not have is the same thing that the Capitals and the Canadians have, in that they have somebody that has a spot on the ice very close to the face-off dot that for their power play is going to be parked there and can score from there. You know they're there, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, right? On the Oilers, that is Leon Draisaitl. He was between the red line and the face-off circle, and he is going to score from an absurd angle. He did it tonight. It happened to be called back because it's not his fault.
And
on
they
the
go
Washington
for it on
Capitals,
5-on-5s too, right?
Right. Yep. Oh, and it doesn't matter. And he's going to be there, and you could try and put someone there in front of him. You're probably just going to screen your goalie, and if they don't, the person that's going to get hit is going to get hurt. Alex Ovechkin is the same thing, and quietly on the Canadians, Patrick Laine and Cole Caulfield have become just absolute monsters for one-timers, and the Leafs just don't really use Austin Matthews for that. Austin Matthews can do that. He can score goals from a silly angle, but he would rather try and carve a little bit of space and get close to the net. He's not usually a stand in my one spot and take my one shot kind of guy. And sometimes I wish he would, just a little bit.
Well, that's the one thing about Leon Draisaitl is that, yeah, that is obviously a favorite of his and Connor McDavid to set up. But one thing that's really versatile about Leon Draisaitl is that's not all he's there. He's not just there to be a cannon from the dot. He is surprisingly mobile. And despite being like a big guy, he's surprisingly easy to get lost, and that's why I think a lot of people kind of underrated Draisaitl in previous years, because he's so smart. Positionally, I think he's like one of, if not the smartest player in the league, especially this year with a huge step in his defensive game. Oh my God, he's so much better defensively this year. But it's despite being like this big guy built like a barn, he can just disappear behind like a defensive pairing and just get wide open for a nice pass or to dish out a pass. And I mean, Leon Draisaitl for Hart. That's my GOAT. That's my Hart winner right there. That winning 2 Harts on a team with McDavid, I mean, that just makes me happy. I would love to see it.
Well, and he does make he makes such unbelievable reads. Like there was more than one play tonight where he was in his spot where he really likes to be, regardless of how he plays. But when they're in the offensive zone and established, he's going to be by the one face-off circle for the most part. He does move around, of course. But there was a couple reads tonight where there's a flurry in front of the net, and he gets into the perfect area to bank in the rebound, and it's sitting there, and Joseph Woll just happened to stop it tonight.
Yeah.
But I have watched the Oilers enough to know that if you leave him alone, you're waiting for something to happen with him, because it's kind of Thanos inevitable. Because he just is that good. It's so annoying.
No,
it's
definitely.
so annoying.
Now, on the other side of the play, the Oilers had an interesting dilemma today. They're kind of having a flu going around. It's kind of a sick bug going around the dressing room.
Oh, that was us in December.
Ekholm, right? Yeah, Matthias Ekholm out, not playing today. So you had the top line of Kulak and Bouchard, who have, I think this is their first game this year, and Nurse Klingberg, who I was warning, if you've been watching my previous shows, I've been like, you have to watch out for that. That is a bad idea. Do not do that. And Stetcher Emberson, who I don't think Stetcher and Emberson play very well together. They're both, I mean, Stetcher's not that young, but they're both very inexperienced third pairing defensemen. Their numbers play much better when Stetcher's playing with Nurse or Emberson's playing with Kulak. But Ekholm out. Trying something new, which, I mean, I think that this is exactly what you want regular season hockey. I mean, for the Oilers and the Maple Leafs, whether they'll make the playoffs has not been a question for the last however many years, right? To me, mid regular season is all about experimenting. It's all about learning what you have for the playoffs, and I think coaches that don't take advantage of that are wasting their time. They're wasting my time, they're wasting your time, and they're wasting the team's time. And so that's why I like to see Kulak and Bouchard. I thought they played pretty good today. I mean, all 3 goals they were on the ice for. That certainly speaks for something. Nurse Klingberg, I mean,
he had like a year off,
right?
Did he even have a conditioning stint?
No, he didn't.
Okay, so he's played 150 minutes of hockey.
Yeah, and for a lot of Oilers fans, I know there are some people out there who are going to be a lot harder on him. I'm definitely giving him benefit of the doubt, because why wouldn't I? I mean, the quote where he said this is the first time he's playing pain-free in his entire hockey career just made me like smile. I mean, that just makes me like happy to hear. You hear all these stories about guys playing through pain, and it's terrible. And these players have to live a whole life after they retire from hockey, and you never want to have to live through that. So that's really good to hear that he's in such a good state. He still does need to be caught up, and he's getting tough minutes right off the bat, and that's really difficult for him. I think he's doing pretty well. His passing is still there. His passing is definitely still there. His skating is not. But that's fine, right? Like, he's here to be the 6th, 7th guy, and he's not going to be the only guy, but right now it looks like the defensemen are like the 3rd highest priority for the Oilers, considering our goaltending and our scoring this year. But I don't know. I mean, he didn't play that much in Toronto, right?
Well, he did, but he wasn't as good as we hoped he would be.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like we expected him to come in and be Cale Makar. That was not the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But there was not the same offensive upswing that we had hoped would happen.
Yeah.
Now, that one could argue that is just because of the Leaf system. It's a similar thing with OEL, where last year when he played, the last couple of years he's played on the Panthers and has been, like essentially money in the bank for 15, and I think he's only at like 5 so far this year. So I think part of it is that he's coming fresh off an injury. If it's the first time he's playing pain-free, then I'm happy for him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, famous Leaf legend John Klingberg, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. There was a number of times tonight where I I was writing notes about like people on the ice and different plays that were happening, and I was like, "There's a staggering number now of former Leafs that are on the team."
I mean, we've been saying that since like Jack Campbell got signed like 3 years ago,
It was
right?
just funny because at the beginning they were like, "Oh, former Leaf, blah blah blah," and I was like, "If they do this for everybody, it's going to be every second sentence, former Leaf, blah blah blah."
I mean,
But I digress.
there are numerous amount of former
Yeah,
or current Leaf players who I, as an
yeah.
Oilers fan, have really wanted us to pick up. Timothy Liljegren. Oh man, that would have been so nice for us to pick up. Nick Robertson, please, can we just like take him off your hands? Can we just have him? Thank
Sure.
you. Bet.
Well, you can't have him, but what are you going
Oh
to give me
man,
back?
I don't know. You want?
Actually, we should probably talk about him. He did not finish the game.
He did come back. He did. I
Oh,
heard on
did
the
he?
bounce. He
Okay.
did come back. He did take a boost shot.
Yeah.
Happens to everybody.
Off his
Hyman
left
took
knee,
one
I
in the
think.
face. Yeah, no, it looked pretty bad. He was itching to get
Yeah.
off the ice. But hopefully it was. I mean, given the fact that he came right back to the bench off the dressing room,
Yeah. Well,
it's not anything too serious.
well, in regards to Klingberg, like there was a pocket of Leafs fans that wanted to bring him back. I
Mhm.
don't think it would have been a bad idea for us to bring him back. At the same time, I've seen that show before. So
Yeah.
I don't mind trying to get another person as like our seventh defenseman right now. Like
Mhm.
arguably we have one already, but there's more than a couple people that think we should probably make a trade at some point. I guess it all kind of depends on what happens leading up to the Four Nations face-off, which I don't really care about, if I'm being honest. And what happens afterwards, because I'm not entirely sure that Leafs management is entirely secure in any position except goals in goaltending. That's the first time I've ever been able to say that in my adult life as a Leafs fan, is saying we're not worried about goaltending this year. It's just defense and forwards. Whereas last year and every other year, it's like, well, should we? Shouldn't we? So I on the one hand, I was a little bit sad that we didn't get Klingberg just because it would be nice to have.
Mhm.
But he looked fine tonight. Like obviously, he's the reason that the goal gets called back. That kind of thing happens to every team,
Right.
right?
Like that's
And
not his
it
fault
doesn't matter.
specifically, but
No,
it's.
like it's just it happens. It
Mhm.
happens. And 5 years ago that would never have been called back, and maybe it goes to overtime, and maybe we're starting the show differently with
Right.
Oilers winning in overtime.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is now, and even the best players end up offside sometimes, and I think he's a really good pickup for Edmonton. I think it'll take him a couple games to get back in the swing of things, but it's February 1st. There's no playoff hockey for 2.5 months. We
Right.
got time. You got time.
Plenty of time and plenty of
Plenty of
time
time.
until the trade deadline in March 7th. Now,
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to talk about the state of kind of like the Oilers and the Leafs. But and we're gonna move into our third period. I'm gonna give a shout out to our Patreon, but I just want to leave this quote from Eric Tulsky. Tulsky, is it Tulsky? Tulsky? I don't know. I love the guy. Oh man, I wish he was the GM of the Oilers. I was screaming for years, make him GM. But I knew that the Carolina was just gonna promote him. What can you do? But someone said that like, is there any like specific holes that you're like willing to fill? It was something after the Rantanen trade, and he said if we don't have the best 20 guys on our team, we're not done. I just want us to think about that. If we don't have the best 20 guys on our team, we're not done. Let's just think about that as I give a little bit of a shout out to our Game Over Patreon. Are you looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists like myself, like Lauren, across Canada? If you have a few spare bucks kicking around, you can head to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us feedback, and you can join us for special shows live where you can interact with hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. That's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for more. If we don't have the best 20 guys, we're not done. Do you think Leafs management believes that? Do you think they're like thinking that?
I would love for them to think that.
Right? But are they?
And they don't.
Right.
They don't.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think? Educate
Like,
me.
what do they need?
Well, what would you like to see the Leafs do before the 7th to give them the best chance in the playoffs? Educate me, educate our Game Over Edmonton viewers who might not be as clued in to the dailies of the Maple Leafs.
Sure. Well, I rant about it frequently. I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
And then I will
it.
give you my answer.
Yeah.
What it was the Edmonton Oilers' third line tonight. What was their third line?
Their third line, tonight it was a bit of a weird one. It was Adam Henrique, Kasperi Kapanen, and Vasily Podkolzin.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good third line. They are
Yeah.
functional. They have a job. They are well-known names. They are respectable names. Okay?
Mhm.
Tonight, the Leafs' third line was Bobby McMann, Nick Robertson, and Max Domi. Now, that's not bad. You know Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson did his token at least one fall per game tonight. That was very nice of him to keep the history going.
Bobby McMann is a favorite of mine.
I love Bobby McMann.
Yeah.
And he's 28 years old. He was undrafted. Like, talk about a miracle on ice story for Bobby McMann.
Definitely.
On Wednesday, when the Leafs lost in a terrible measure to Minnesota, I actually thought I was going to stream. So I wrote notes like I was streaming.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until 3 minutes left in the game. And in the second intermission, I went over the third lines for the last couple of cup winners. And holy goddamn. So, really quickly, let's review. So, last year, Florida was Luostarinen, Lundell, and Tarasenko. That's no fun to play against.
Don't
Okay?
remind me. Don't remind me.
Vegas before that. Okay? Brett Howden, Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone.
There's no
Buggers,
shot
okay?
Mark Stone was on the third line. You're lying to me.
Yes, I swear to God, I spent the second intermission.
hate those guys.
Move it. I know. It gets worse. Colorado, okay?
Oh my God. Dude.
New Hook, Comfer, and Abe Kubel.
That Colorado team, man.
Okay? Tampa. In their back-to-back Stanley Cup winning seasons, Yanni Gord, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow.
Oh, man. Jesus
And the Leafs' third
Christ.
line is Bobby McMann, Nick Robertson, and Max Domi. I want to never, and the Leafs have Max Domi signed at like 3.2 or 3.75 for the next 3 years. And that third line is simply not good enough. It's not good enough.
It's
want,
not.
and on top of that, you made a comment earlier about Pontus Holmberg.
Mhm.
Okay? And when Nick Robertson, oh my gosh, I have trauma regarding him. When John Tavares was out, who do you think was pushed up into the second line center position?
Was it Pontus Holmberg?
Yes, it was. And Pontus Holmberg, if you want to go into the playoffs and have a modicum of success, he cannot be in your top 12 forwards. I would actually, at this point, I would say Nick Robertson should be your 13th forward. I think that the Leafs' bottom six is staggeringly atrocious in terms of known people who are capable and you can depend on to score goals. I think Steven Lorenzo was a wicked pickup. I am actually a David Kampf truther. I think that our fourth line at times has been phenomenal. I think that Ryan Reeves should never play a game again for the Maple Leafs. I think he needs to be traded. He's on the second last year of a $1.7 million contract. It's not impossible. But Connor Dewar has been a more impactful player for the Leafs bottom six.
Yeah.
So I would like the Leafs bottom six to be fired into the sun and be replaced by people that are competent and are able to actually score in games where the top six, the big four, the big five, the big people that make over $10 million are being held without goals. Because sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes your big people are tied up by the other team's unbelievable defensive pairs and you need bottom six scoring because we know that it's not going to come from the back end. So I want the Leafs bottom six to be fired into the sun, the bottom 12, the bottom six of their forwards. Because in no universe is Bobby McMann, Nick Robertson, and Max Domi a good enough third line to go into the playoffs with.
So that's just like forward group across the board. Centers, just like scoring wingers, just anything, right? Just any kind of improvement. Got it.
Preferably a center that can jump up. Now, Kelly Yarncroke has been out all season. There is a chance that he'll be back by the playoffs. Great. But as per John Klingberg, it is tough to be out for that long and come back and be a perfectly impactful player without making some serious gaffes. I think that if you start, I think that if Kelly Yarncroke comes back and gets healthy and starts on the third line, you're setting him up to fail. You need to start him on the fourth line and get him back conditioned. And that's great. But even if Austin Matthews gets hurt, you can't put Kelly Yarncroke there.
Yeah.
You can't.
I mean,
so you need to trade for another center that in a pinch can slide up into your top six. Because the Leafs right now don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. And it's in games like tonight, you know, like the Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews have a couple really magical moments. The power play scores. William Nylander does William Nylander things. But the Leafs bottom six, and most importantly at center, is a far shadow it is a ant in the shadow of these wonderful third lines that have been so important to the last 5 teams that have won cups. You can't just win it with 1 or 2 big people. We know that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Luke says, can you email that list to Brad? I mean, can you email that list to Stan? I mean, listen, Adam Henrique. Listen, he's no Ryan McLeod. That's all I'll say. He's no Ryan McLeod. He is.
He could have had Ryan McLeod too.
I mean, we could.
In hindsight, okay. With the hindsight now, does that trade look worse? Does them letting it go look worse?
Okay, Matt Savoy is worth it.
Okay.
Is worth it. But Adam Henrique's best spot is not at third line center. It's as a scoring winger. I don't believe in his ability to be a third line center. I really don't.
I'll trade you for Nick Robertson.
I'll trade you for Bobby McMahon.
No, you can have him for my cold dead hands.
See, there you go. But the Oilers need score. They just need a scoring touch. We have, I mean, last year we had Warren Fogle and Ryan McLeod, possession demons who had hands of stone. We had Jesse Puljujarvi, possession demon, hands of stone. Who do we have this year? Velissi Podkolzin, possession demon, hands of stone. Victor Arvidsson, possession demon, hands of stone.
He's been
Connor
great.
Brown, possession demon, hands of stone. Jeff Skinner, hands that can score, scratched on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
Save
Where
Jeff
is
Skinner.
Puljujarvi playing nowadays? Where is he playing?
Think
I
he
heard
was
he
in
got-
Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. I thought the last I saw he went through waivers.
He did. He was playing in the
Okay.
minors. He did get waived, even though
Damn.
despite playing very, very well and having some of the highest points per 60 in Pittsburgh, Mike Sullivan is like, get that guy out of my face. I don't know what it is about Jesse Puljujarvi that makes like coaches and GMs just like hate him. But I love my Bison King. Fucking stay strong, man.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's because he picks his nose with his own tongue.
That's true, and it's because
That's what
he skates just so weird. I mean, that's definitely due to a hip injury that he's been dealing with. But he definitely is a weird skater. And there are certain qualities about players that coaches love and they don't love. One thing coaches love is if you kill penalties, because you know who Chris Knobloch and not Dave Tippett, but Jay Woodcroft and Ken Holland and Stan Bowman, you know who they love? They love Matthias Janmark. Why? Because he can kill penalties. Can he do anything else? No. He can't. Just can't. But he can kill
David
penalties.
Kampf.
Yeah?
That's David Kampf. David Kampf will have like 6 goals all year, but every single one comes out like a really important moment.
You
never wasted David Kampf goal.
Yeah, that's true. Pretty sure Janmark scored in like game 6 or game 7 of the Florida series.
Yep.
Oh, like he gets caved in offensively, but like every once in a while, but he does kill penalties, and he's okay at it. But like I really don't like seeing Matthias Janmark 5-on-5. I would like to see an upgrade on him. I mean, it's kind of the same. our bottom six. I mean, I just feel Jeff Skinner isn't being utilized as much. I feel like he should be in the top six, and you put Victor Arvidsson or Vili-Podkolzin in the bottom six, and then there you go. But Jeff Skinner, for some reason, despite, I mean, you saw the defensive plays he was making tonight. He was out there like a dog. He was fighting. He was going crazy. He was playing like he was trying to earn that 12th roster spot. I mean, he is. I don't know what he's been doing to fall out of favor, but he is still like 4th on the Oilers in terms of scoring forwards behind, McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, Nuge. I think he's like 1 or 2 behind Corey Perry.
Crazy. He was in my division for a long time, right? I'm no stranger to Jeff Skinner.
Yeah.
So we know that he can play high in the lineup because he's been one of their only players high up in the lineup for Buffalo. Maybe that's the bad comparison because Buffalo is nothing to write home about, but I digress. I do think that the Oilers have a very good top 6. So I don't find it overly surprising that he's playing that low in the lineup. I think that if an injury happened, he is somebody that you could slide up and he would be suitable, that you could depend on and isn't just going to be an offensive hole the way Pontus Holmberg is. Pontus Holmberg is where plays go to die.
Yeah.
Like nothing good happens really when he's on the ice. And again, that's another player that if he never played on my team again, I wouldn't be sad about it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I would rather take another David Kampf, who's more defensively reliable.
That's crazy. Okay, so so Perry was playing on the top line tonight. I think you were talking earlier. I think it was about Matthew Nyes, and this is kind of like a reverse Matthew Nyes, where Corey Perry kind of brings like very similar things, despite being like on the opposite end of youth. He's a very similar presence. He's very he's not like the biggest guy, but his presence is very large. He's
very good within 5 feet of the net.
Right? No, exactly. And
Yep.
I mean, every time he gets slotted up with McDavid and Draisaitl, I mean, he's got the scoring touch. I mean, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that he's still like I was actually skeptical when we brought him back, because I was like, he's going to go the way of Derek Ryan. He is not going to, I don't think he's going to be able to catch up. And yes, there are plenty of times this season where his skating is really slow and he does look old. And I think that is going to get exposed in the playoffs if he gets a lot of ice time. The thing is that he doesn't get a lot of ice time. And if he's just going to be out there to score some goals, I think that's going to be perfect. I actually think that's like a perfect spot for Corey Perry, and he's the perfect energy guy. I mean, oh my God, he's just, the vibes are immaculate with that guy. And I hated him for so long. I hated him for so long. I hate the Ducks.
And I know that if he was on my team, I would feel that way.
Right.
I because Corey Perry has been a leaf killer for so long. But if you utilize him in the right situations and in the right way, he can be an unbelievable player for your team. And it's one of those things that is annoying, because I'm like, okay, you are old and you are slow, so why are you scoring against my team?
Right.
It's such a pain in the ass. He's 41 now? He's got to be. He's in the same draft class as Marc-Andre Fleury. Right, and he has. I think last year Corey Perry came out and said that he wants to play for another 5 years. Please, no.
I love that. I actually would love that. He's gonna come out and play 6 minutes a night and score. Just like he's gonna come out and he's just gonna play McDavid, Draisaitl, and score a goal, and then he's gonna just take a sit on the bench. I mean,
with his little rat face.
No, 100%, 100% rat face.
He looks like a ferret. Just saying.
I mean, he kind of.
He might be bitter. I might be bitter towards Corey Perry.
I digress. He doesn't usually play in the top 6. So usually we would have McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, top line. Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Podkolzin has been that second line. I know Vancouver fans kind of have some thoughts about Podkolzin. I'm kind of starting to have some of the same thoughts. Doesn't quite have that scoring touch, but he is a workhorse. He definitely goes
hard to
out
play
there,
against.
right? He is definitely hard to play against. He reminds me
really
of,
good in a battle, really good in the corners. He was really good. In man-on-man battles, he was really good tonight.
You know who else was like that? Dylan Holloway.
Yeah.
Except Dylan Holloway could score. Oh, he could score. The Oilers did not match him at $2.5 million. I bring it up every show, and it's really just to torture myself. It's just to torture myself with the St. Louis with the offer sheet.
Oh, he was
Remember?
right. Yeah.
Him and Broberg got offer sheeted. Broberg, he had no place in Edmonton. Really unfortunate. I really like him, but he was 4th on the depth chart. He was a left-handed defenseman. He's just not gonna find his way here behind Matthias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse, Brett Kulak. I'm sorry, you're not pushing one of those out of the lineup. But Dylan Holloway,
same thing happened with Liljegren.
right? No, 100%, right? Yeah. But Dylan Holloway literally could be on the second line right now. Just reminding all Oilers fans, and I'll never stop reminding because we deserve.
Hey, we could have had Zach Hyman for $6 million.
I mean, you could have.
Would have, could have, should have, right?
I mean, we could have had if we just got a goalie not named Jack Campbell, we get like Darcy Kemper, or we get who else was in that goalie free agency class? I can't remember.
You could have even made a trade.
Nice. Could have, yeah, that's true.
Could have even made a trade because there's so many goalie trades that have happened, right? Like, I mean, you're not going to get somebody like Forsberg, but we know Allen was on the table. He's now gone to New Jersey and looks great, right? Like, there's right now there's a considerable amount of goalie movement.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like this year there's been a lot of trades.
This year there's definitely been a lot of trades, and I like it. I like, and that's definitely in part because of the news of the projected cap, $95.5 million. I mean, that's gotta feel great for Leafs fans, and I mean Oilers fans are salivating over that. With $95.5 million, you know what could happen? They could sign Rantanen, and they could make it work with Bouchard and McDavid extensions. Can you imagine that? Could you actually imagine that? They could make it work.
Pretty crazy. When is McDavid's contract up? Is it next season?
Year. Yeah, next year. Bouchard is an RFA at the end of this year. McDavid's a UFA at the end of next year. But given that Draisaitl, I mean, people have been like, oh, McDavid, Draisaitl, will they stay in Edmonton? Duh.
Why wouldn't you?
No, I mean, my stepdad's like a doomer. He's always like, oh, this is what's going to convince McDavid to leave. He's not leaving. Chill out. It's just not happening. Of course he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it's a Canadian market. People are always like, oh, like, they're scared.
I don't. Forgive me. I don't think for the next 4 years there's going to be so many people that wanted to move to the United States. To not say anything more than that on a non-political podcast.
That's a little.
I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there are some that I would disagree with my whole chest. But I have a feeling that maybe the drive to go make a few bucks for some people's families might not be worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when
Let's
you're
hope.
Just like,
as two Canadian teams, can we high five in agreement that yes,
totally.
buddy.
100%.
Yeah.
Come to Canada. On the goalie thing, I will say a lot of Oilers fans, me included, we've all been hoping for one thing, and it's Karel Vejmelka. I don't think it'll happen, but oh my god, if somehow the Oilers can convince Utah to just let him free into the Oilers goalie tandem.
I'm pretty sure Karel Vejmelka was somebody that the Leafs tried to bring over, and then I think Arizona stole them.
Yeah.
I think they had to go through waivers. I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because Karel Vejmelka at one point was supposed to be a Leaf.
That's
unfortunate. Now, I'm not super mad because we have Joseph Paul and Anthony
your
Stolarz
goaltending's in a very good spot right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I think Skinner, and no shade to Pickard, who's played very well today, like this year, and very well in the playoffs. He's not a long-term
solution.
No, he's not. And Vejmelka is. He is like, he's a very, I don't want to say under the radar, because I feel like a lot of people who at least know who he is, know he's really good, but he's really good. He's really good on a team that you wouldn't expect to have a really good goalie. And it's not just a Charlie Lindgren where it's one amazing year and then it's back to kind of normalcy. No, he's pretty really consistently well above average, if not really good, right?
And it's building. Yeah.
If the Oilers,
Yeah. I
that's
dread
my
the
number one
day that
trade
the
target.
Oilers get their goaltending fixed because you'll be even more insufferable as a fandom.
That's music to my ears.
I know.
Listen,
You're
my
welcome.
first year,
Very
my first year of fandom was 2006, 2007. I was like, I do not remember Carolina Hurricanes. I do not remember 06. My very first exposure to, or my very first conscious memories of the NHL was Joffrey Lupul. So I deserve this. I earned this. I had to watch those teams.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I had to watch the 2010 and 2011 and 2012 Leafs.
Yeah.
And the 2014 Leafs. Oh my God. Anything
Yep.
between basically 2010 and 2015 was, I would watch paint dry instead of that now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, should we wrap this up? We've been going for
We have been going for about an hour. Do you have any?
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's
Time
true.
flies when you're
I
having
feel
fun.
like this has been a wonderful stream. We've had a pretty
great.
consistent stream of viewers tonight,
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
pretty nice. Thanks for so many of the people in chat. Do you have any final thoughts about the game or the Leafs moving forward or anything of the sorts?
You know what it is more than anything is like, and I'm sure you probably feel the same, right? You're on the West Coast, and you are now the only real West Coast team in Canada that hasn't made a trade in all of this kerfuffle that's happened in essentially the last week. So I imagine that you're probably feeling pretty restless and want the Edmonton Oilers to make some moves. And I feel the same. I'm looking at my watch going, well, yeah, it's only February 1st, but it looks like the floodgates are open and trade season is well underway, and it's crickets from the 416. So I want that to happen. I think the sooner that we make the trade, the sooner that whatever trade is going to happen and the players that we would get can come in and build that chemistry, the better. I don't know what kind of things are on the table in terms of movement. I know that we're not going to get into it now, but there is a considerable amount of people that believe we have seen enough of one specific player that happens to be from Toronto, that is on Toronto, that is going to be asking for a raise in Toronto. And there are a lot of people that want to give that to him, but the fact of the matter is, even though the cap is going up like $7 million, if you do the math and you give that person a raise, and Matthew Nyes, who we talked about a lot this stream, he's an RFA at the end of the season and will be deserving of probably a $6 million raise into the $7 million range. Even though, again, John Tavares' his contract's coming off the books, he's probably going to re-sign here for a considerable amount less. That money gets eaten up pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see if the trade involves a big piece, right? Like, it's when the Mikko Rantanen trade happened, I guess over a week ago, it was sort of unprecedented where like a major superstar was being traded in the middle of the season. And part of the reason for that is the contract negotiation. I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that Mitch Marner's on an expiring contract, and he's going to be asking for a lot of money. And he is an incredible player. However, historically, if you look at his stats, it looks like he scores a lot in the playoffs, but it's usually in games 1, 2, 3, and sometimes 4. And in the critical games, so 5, 6, 7, he turns into a ghost. And so there are some people, myself included, that thinks that you would never get an equal player. But that's not what I think the Leafs need. I think the Leafs need somebody that can be sort of I don't even want to say a Swiss Army knife. I want something better than that. I think they could be like an actual proper functional multi-tool. And I think you could get some unbelievable pieces for Mitch Marner that could really impact the top 6 and the bottom 6 and create a little bit extra space and create some longevity. But I don't know if the Leafs would ever do that. I mean, the fact of the matter is Mitch Marner has a full no move. So if he doesn't want to go, he won't be. And they'll just walk him to free agency if he doesn't want to resign. I've seen this team. I've seen the team that I love so very much for a long time look the very same. And I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to throw a flashbang into the room and do a switcheroo of a wonderful and incredible two-way top 6 player with a incredible upswing. I think there does exist somewhere a team that wants him and has a piece that we could get back that maybe they just need some trades of scenery that can maybe be more impactful in the playoffs. So, I mean, we essentially have 11 days until the Four Nations face-off happens. It'll be essentially 10 days of other hockey. It'll be a mini trade freeze, and then it's the second half of February. The Leafs don't play again at home, I think, for about 20 days now. So well until the end of February until they're back. So I think some time away will be good, and maybe they will get their crap together and be more dynamic and more consistent offensively. But the fact of the matter is, the number of games this year where the Leafs have scored 1 or less goals is a troubling trend. It's been a trend in the last couple of years in the playoffs, and we need to stop that from happening again. So whatever it takes, I'll do whatever it takes. I trade whoever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen again. That's what I want. Except Joseph Woll. You can keep your hands off him.
Alrighty. Thank you for those closing words, Lauren. I'm going to give my final thoughts on the Oilers, and I don't know how much I trust Stan Bowman, and I don't know how much I trust Jeff Jackson, but if they think it's right, they should do it, and they should make some sort of improvement. And they just need to give Jeff Skinner some time in the top 6. He got some minutes tonight with McDavid and Draisaitl. He got a shift here and one there. I would really like to see that continue. I'd really like to see Vegemelka in an Oilers uniform. But I think right now the Oilers are currently one of the best teams in the league. And I think with some concerns, I think they're looking very good in a potential playoff series against anyone in the West. I think they would currently win a playoff series against anybody in the West. And if you're an Oilers fan, that's almost everything you could ask for.
I think we should wish for a Leafs-Oilers final.
I'm always wishing for a Leafs-Oilers final. I always
Wouldn't that be wicked? Oh,
that
man.
would be the greatest Stanley Cup final of all time.
It would be wicked.
Dude, don't even get me started.
And on one little itty bitty note, I don't doubt that Stan Bowman is willing to do anything to make the right thing happen.
And I
think last year when the Oilers got Ekholm, I was like, God damn, that's a smart move. That was a brilliant. Was it last season or the season before?
That was 2 seasons ago, and that was Ken Holland. It was a Ken Holland.
Oh, really?
It was.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, my bad. Screw you, Stan Bowman. Still.
Yeah. No, Stan Bowman has brought in Podkolzin. He has brought in Klingberg. He has brought in Kasperi Kapanen as well.
Right. Well, you can have him. I don't really miss him. He was good and fast, but I think he's a better player now than he was when we had him.
I think so too.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think that about does it for tonight. Lauren, where can everybody find you?
Well, you can find me mostly on the Game Over Toronto network, the Game Over Toronto channel, over on our YouTube channel. So if you go check that out, would love to see some of you there. But on socials, you can find me on Blue Sky at Lauren in the Six. I'm not on its older evil sibling anymore, so you'll only find me on Blue Sky now. I'm sorry to say, but please, if you go reach out on that, please make sure you follow me, and I'll follow you back, and you can be miserable with me together when the Leafs eventually lose.
Well, thank you.
How about you,
much
Ash? Where can everybody find you? Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Blue Sky, Ash Jubilee, pretty much anywhere. Now, the Oilers next play Tuesday, Wednesday, back-to-back in St. Louis, in Chicago. That won't be me. You'll see Avery for those shows. I will be back later in the week. I'll be back for the weekend before the Four Nations for my final few shows before I am off on a trip to Seattle. But
hey,
say hi to Avery from me on Tuesday as the Oilers go into St. Louis for their start of their road trip. And one last thank you for Lauren for coming on Game Over Edmonton. This was a
Thanks for
wonderful
having me.
crossover. This was a wonderful
Thanks
stream.
for having me.
No problem. Oilers lose 4-3. Game of the year, Hockey Night in Canada instant classic.
Go Leafs, go, baby. Let's go.
That's all we got. You have a good night. I'll see you next week.